What's up, haters? Prof.Haterade here, and I want to talk about Apex Legends. Now, this is my first review in a while, and the ones that I did a few years ago were poorly edited and not professional at all, so I want to give this another try. Now, with that being said, I want you to wait until the end of the video to like or dislike, and only like if you actually enjoyed. And if you dislike, actually let me know in the comments below why, so I can improve for future videos. And then consider subscribing if you liked the video. Now I'm going to give you a rundown. It's a Battle Royale game based in the Titanfall universe, developed by Respawn Entertainment. The game features the same gameplay as Titanfall 2 along with weapons, design, and aesthetics. Now, also a side note is that this is an actual finished product, unlike the sweep of early access half-baked shit we've been getting here lately with Battle Royales. Fresh, right out of the box, brand new game. Now, we're going to go through this good, the bad, and the ugly style to highlight the good parts of the game while also relaying some of the problems that players have had and the overall problems with the game, in my opinion. Now, let's enter the world of Titanfall 3, Apex Legends. The game starts with a stylized intro cinematic that explains the basic lore behind the Apex games and that these legends compete for money, fame, and glory, or one or all of the three, with cheesy one-liners and a lot of Aussie voice acting.
They kill you, they're better. You kill them, you're better.
We get the gist and are thrown directly into the training grounds. Now, we're going to touch on the training grounds later on, but first you are shown the basic of how movement works and the more important features such as actual movement mechanics, air mechanics, and sliding. You're introduced to Bloodhound, one of the currently 8 playable legends, which are him, of course, and Bangalore, Gibraltar, Wraith, Pathfinder, Lifeline, and the unlockable Mirage and Caustic. You are shown the ropes of guns and HUD navigation. After you two exchange numbers and you wait at your bedside hoping Bloodhound will text you, you meet Pathfinder, your friendly neighborhood Skynet drone. He teaches you how to heal down teammates and how to res them from death. All in all, it's a very basic of how characters and the game works. I mean, it's not perfect as they leave out the amount of fucking jump spam you'll encounter in the game, but no tutorial is perfect, so we can't fault it for that. The gameplay, as I said before, is just Titanfall 2, but with no running or jetpacks. Overall, Titanfall gameplay, in a sense, is just basically ultra-refined version of Quake with modern game mechanics. Fast, a lot of jumping, and a lot of head bob, but with smooth controls. Definitely an IGN 10 out of 10 if I do say so myself. Now that we have all that covered and all the basic info down, let's get on to the review, and we're going to start with the good. The game just feels great. The movement and overall weapon balancing, for the most part, but we'll get onto that later, feels really good. And the environment feels amazing. The map being split into vastly different ecosystems, almost like biomes, is a really nice and good-looking feature. You can be battling in the sandbox 1 minute and then grab your M16 and Nom kit and head for Charlie in the trees in the Jungle River region. The weapons, while some are better than others in certain situations, of course, you never end up feeling like you lost a gunfight because somebody had a OP as shit weapon. Of course, this excludes the Kraber and the Mastiff, which are high damage and can only be acquired from actual care packages. They're legendary weapons, and their ammo is not only limited, but it's non-replenishing, so once you use it up, well, it's just gone. You mainly feel like you got outplayed or outskilled, which, in a competitive game, especially a Battle Royale game, is the best way to lose. Not to bullshit, not to a glitch, but to a better player or team of players. The graphics, while far from the worst, I mean, have you ever seen a PUBG player model? Oh my god! Oh! Overall, I would say it falls in the same vein as Fortnite. Stylized and somewhat cartoony, but for me that's perfectly fine. I would rather have a cartoony aesthetic than a poorly done, ugly as shit attempt at a realistic one. There's an abundance of content, and by that I mean skins and unlockables, and while, yes, there are loot boxes, there are no duplicates in this game. That's right, you are guaranteed something new every Apex pack. You never really feel cheated and like you're getting cheated out of a skin you're looking forward to. You also earn these crafting materials that allow you to just craft exactly what you want, so it's not that big of a deal if you don't get a lot of stuff. Remember, you always earn Apex packs, so you're always going to earn these. Granted, at first, it starts at every level, and then eventually it gets to where it's every other level, but ultimately, you're still earning these for free. You don't have to buy them to get everything in the game, which is the idea. You will eventually get everything in the game. That's the idea about no duplicates. So eventually, you will get what you want. Whether the game likes it or not, there is no chance about that. Once you earn everything else, you will start getting the stuff that you want. The legends are all pretty balanced, except for Wraith, but it's not even that big of a deal. She just has a small hitbox and can rift into the void, and it has pretty quick cooldown and take no damage. Like, at all. Even from the storm or zone or whatever they call it. But it's not so bad that you feel like you lost simply because it was a Wraith that killed you. She can just be really annoying to hit while on the run compared to other characters, especially your Gibraltars or Caustics who have a much bigger character model. Training grounds are good, and a really good way to practice the more recoil-intense guns like the Devotion of Flatline. I jump in there every now and then to do jump slides, shoot moving targets while running, and jump sliding, etc., etc., and to get warmed up in general before a match. As a side note, every weapon has a predetermined recoil pattern, so you can master it like in CSGO or other competitive games. I really think this is a good model for this game to take, as it's presenting itself as a finished, full-released, fleshed-out product. And I think the idea of predetermined recoil patterns allows one to master it, gives it a more competitive feeling to it. I want to clarify and fix a mistake that I made when originally recording this. I was rushed around the time that I recorded the talk about the ping system. It sounded rushed and I stuttered a lot, and I feel as though I didn't get my point across well enough, so to clarify, the ping system is fantastic. It's fleshed out very well, works very good, and in fact it's so amazing that other games that have a ping system from now on will be compared to Apex and criticized if it doesn't meet those expectations. They have set a new bar for a ping system, and that can be to some people a bad thing, but I personally think it's a good thing. Whenever something like this comes out in a new game, especially a free title, but one that works so well, it sets a new standard, and the higher the standard is raised, the better games will get. However, there are two problems with it. They're simple problems, and they don't take away from how good it is, but in reality, they are two problems, and it's my job as a reviewer to nitpick things that I know about and personal experiences that I've had. So the first one is the abuse of the enemy-spotted ping. Oftentimes, players will spam this ping on an enemy, causing you to hear nothing but that ping sound and see an obtrusive marker that blocks vision. The second plays off of the first and the fact that it's often an excuse made by players that they do not need to communicate because of said ping. Oftentimes they just simply don't want to talk, and that's fine, but if you're going to play a team-based game, you have to expect to be able to communicate with your team. It's something that's expected from your team, especially one that is trying to communicate with you. Like I said, the same player that doesn't talk and says, I have the pinging system, that will oftentimes abuse this enemy-spotted ping. Not only will you ping something, the character will also vocally tell his other teammates, hey, heavy ammo here, extended light mag, level 3, right here, level 3 body armor, level 4 body, whatever. It doesn't matter. This tremendously helps teams in explaining what they're trying to convey and where they're looking at. So, honestly, the ping system's got to go on the good side. Even though it does have a flaw, it will go on the good side just because of how good it is. I mean, it's a completely fleshed out system that now that they've set the standard for, other games are going to have to start doing something similar to this, or else they will always be compared to Apex Legends. As far as the lore, there really just isn't any. The most we know is from the intro, and that's about it. And since that's really about it, I can't really put it in the bad. We just don't know enough about it. The Legends have very short linear backgrounds that feel somewhat last minute thrown together like Gibraltar's or Bangalore's. Or look at the other lore of Bloodhound, is that the only real lore that you can find out about them is that Bloodhound is non-binary, and which to me doesn't really make sense. It's not really a problem or that it doesn't make sense that Bloodhound is non-binary, but simply for the fact that Bloodhound, a character that goes to extreme lengths not to let you know their age, their race, their gender, their real voice, uses a voice changer, or even their body type by wearing heavy layers of clothing, why would they let you know something so oddly specific about them? You can say man or woman and that's a dime or dozen, but when you say non-binary, that's pinging them down. That's ultimately shrinking the pool. It's like with Bloodhound's character, this is a character that acts like they're running from somebody. Why would you give out information like that that's so oddly specific? So for me, it just feels like it's a poor attempt and a last-ditch effort to throw some lore in on the characters and to make some of the characters unique. And I don't know, it feels somewhat lazy. I wish they would have gone even further with this, explaining the characters' lore and backgrounds. We got to know Gibraltar pretty well, and also we got to know that about Bloodhound. But ultimately, I think that they need to, if they want to have character lore, they need to flesh it out a little bit more. They need to be a little more generous with it and have it a little bit more. and more extensive. Ultimately, we just don't really know too much about any of the characters. Well written. But enough about that. We're going to get on to the bad. Now, there aren't many problems with the game, but because of that, I can highlight them pretty quickly. Netcode is by far one of them. Players dying around corners and shots not connecting with the enemy. The tick rate, I think, is 30, which is okay for a slower-paced game, but not for one this fast. A tick rate of 60 or higher will definitely fix the problem, and I'm sure Respawn will fix this pretty soon, as they've already acknowledged it on various social media and Reddit, I believe. Now, lag is present, but only at the start of matches. The impressive part, however, is that it really doesn't affect the gameplay much. Like, I haven't seen rubber banding or anything personally, but only slowed or choppy movement. All in all, it's still playable even when lagging, and it normally only lasts for 30 seconds to a minute. And there's a good chance that unless you're hot dropping on Skull Town or Artillery or something, you're honestly not going to run into any players in that time period anyway. And finally, the Peacekeeper and the Wingman are a bit of a problem, but for two reasons. The Peacekeeper is unreliable. It's purely inconsistent with its shots. 1 minute point blank while ADSing, you can shoot somebody and do 125 damage, up to 100 to 125 damage. But the next minute, as you shoot somebody, point blank ADS, you'll only do like 40 damage, or sometimes even 12, 15 damage. It's one of those guns that is just completely unreliable, and while it hits hard, because believe me, when this thing hits, it hits like a fucking truck, carrying lead, with a rocket strapped to it. It's utterly unreliable when it comes to combat against other players. It can at one point two-shot a player with purple armor, and that's a bit of a problem considering that not even snipers, excluding the Kraber, none of them can do that. I think it needs to be toned down in damage, maybe to two-shot a player with up to blue armor point blank and three-shot purple armor point blank. I think point blank shotguns should be excessively devastating in video games because that's kind of like their thing. They're extremely devastating close quarters. Even though in reality shotguns are actually pretty devastating mid-range as well, the reality is that this is a video game. It's a game, it's not real life. But ultimately, I think shrinking the damage pool a little bit and making it more consistent is going to be the way to solve that one. The Wingman, however, is a different problem. Inherently, there's nothing really wrong with the gun, but it's a problem for one reason. It can two-shot headshot anyone with the Skull Piercer hop-up. The problem with this is that the Skull Piercer hop-up is the most common in my findings, and I've already sunk about 90 hours into this game. I've been playing it non-stop. It is the most common hop-up I find. All you have to do is find the hop-up, find the gun. All you have to do is have basic aiming. You can destroy people one-on-one and even two-on-one because all you have to do is land at least one headshot and one or two body shots. And if these are people who aren't strafing, then you can just walk right towards them and deal more damage than they can with their automatic in that amount of time. I think simply by making the Skull Piercer hop-up less available and more scarce, I think this would immediately balance this weapon out a lot more. The jump spam is annoying, but being as this is a Titanfall game, essentially, you have to expect that. Now, however, while I do have a solution in my own mind, although I'm not a game developer, you guys tell me if this is a good idea or not, but I think it would hurt the game to put a jump timer on it like they did in Fortnite, where you can only jump a little bit at the time. You can only jump 3 or 4 times before you stop being able to jump and have to wait for a cooldown. However, I think simply making it to where you can't basically project yourself an extra mile just simply because you slid and you jumped, or because you were sprinting that you jumped an extra 7 feet further. I think simply toning that down, the length of which you can sprint jump and the height of which you can jump. Keep the actual animations and the ability to reach, mid-sized buildings the same, but make it to where when characters are jumping, they can't literally jump so high that a lined-up headshot goes to their knees. This just really makes it to where it's pretty annoying if a character's got an EVA 8 shotgun or a Peacekeeper shotgun and you don't have a shotgun. I think you should still be able to compete against them. Although they have the advantage, you should still be able to, with skill, outskill them. You shouldn't have to be a god at the game to be able to outskill a noobish player or a player with not much experience just simply because they're able to jump in the game. But you guys tell me your thoughts on that. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the ugly. Unanimously, the ugliest part of this game is that it has one problem but no solution: the disconnects, and the lack of the ability to reconnect. This is honestly very bad game design. The ability to reconnect into a match is becoming more and more common as we speak, and for a game so far ahead of its competitors, and no sarcasm at all on that one, it really is just so far ahead of its competitors, it lacks a component that me and many others consider to be a just required component of the game. This makes playing with a full squad excessively frustrating, and there's nothing they can do if the game crashes or it has one of its many disconnects like it has throughout the day because the servers are flooded because the game is becoming so popular. I think simply adding this feature would improve the quality of the game and prevent overly frustrating moments. And when it's you and your friends battling the last 4 teams and you destroy the other 2, and they're going for the victory, and then one disconnects and the other one crashes, and you're just simply outnumbered, that's when you feel like you were cheated out of a win, and it's not a good feeling. All in all, definitely worth downloading and trying out this game because it's free and it's fun. The pros definitely outweigh the cons, and it's got great gameplay. While easy to learn, it is hard to master. Plenty of content with more to come in the future, and a roadmap for further development from the team at Respawn. And the best part is, it plays like a finished title, not some early access bullshit. I'll left a download link for Apex in the description below, so hurry up and download this bastard, and I'll see you on the field, you fucking haters. Peace.